There comes a day when your dreams stop being something you talk about and start becoming something you're responsible for. Most people never reach that day, not because they lack talent, but because they never decide. Today we talk about that moment, the day your future stops being an idea. There comes a moment in life when everything feels uncertain, when your path is unclear, your energy is scattered, and your heart is divided between comfort and calling. In that moment, nothing changes until you decide, because direction is never found by wandering endlessly. Direction is created the instant you make a decision. Most people live in hesitation. They think, they doubt, they overanalyze. Their minds are full, but their lives remain still. They wait for clarity before they act, not realizing that clarity only comes after a decision is made. A decision is powerful because it draws a line between who you were and who you are becoming. Before that line, there is confusion. After that line, there is movement. And deep inside, you already know this. You felt that quiet voice, that whisper in your heart telling you there's more for you, that you were not created to live a small, distracted life, that your time, your energy, your abilities, they were given to you for a reason. But the weight of comfort holds you back. The fear of failure whispers louder than your purpose, and so you delay. Yet every delay carries a hidden cost. Days turn into months, months into years, and slowly the life you were meant to build remains untouched, like a door you were too afraid to open. But here is something most people ignore. Indecision is also a decision. Choosing not to move is choosing to stay where you are. Choosing to wait is choosing to let opportunities pass. And time does not pause for uncertainty. Every second is a trust given to you, a trust from Allah. Your life is not random. Your abilities are not accidental. Your dreams are not meaningless thoughts. They are signs, amana, responsibilities placed within you. And one day you will be asked how you used them. Did you act or did you hesitate? Did you step forward with courage? Or did you hide behind fear? This is where decision becomes something deeper than just personal growth. It becomes an act of faith. Because when you decide with sincerity, when you choose a path with a clean heart, you are not walking alone. You are placing your trust in Allah. Tawakkul is not sitting still and hoping things will change. It is making a decision, taking action, and believing that Allah will guide your steps. And when that belief enters your heart, something shifts. Fear loses its control. Doubt becomes smaller. Because you understand that your responsibility is the effort and the outcome belongs to Allah. But effort begins with a decision. Without it, nothing moves. No discipline is formed. No habit is built. No progress is made. Everything you admire in others' success, confidence, strength started with a moment where they chose to stop waiting. They decided to wake up earlier, to work harder, to become better. And it wasn't easy, because decisions come with sacrifice. When you decide to grow, you must let go of comfort. When you decide to focus, you must distance yourself from distractions. When you decide to change, you must leave behind the version of you that kept making excuses. And that hurts. It feels heavy. Because growth is not just about gaining something new, it's about leaving something familiar behind. But within that struggle lies something beautiful. Because every time you choose discipline over laziness, every time you choose purpose over comfort, every time you choose courage over fear, you are honoring the life you've been given. You are showing gratitude, not just with words, but with action. And gratitude is not only saying Alhamdulillah. Gratitude is using what you have in the way it was meant to be used. Your time, your energy, your potential. A decision is where that gratitude begins to take shape. It turns your intentions into movement, your thoughts into actions, your dreams into something real. Without it, even the strongest desire remains powerless. And deep down, you feel this truth. That discomfort you carry, that restlessness in your chest, it's not random. It's the pain of knowing you are capable of more, but not yet choosing it. It's the silent realization that your life could be different, if only you decided. And that feeling doesn't go away with distractions. It follows you, because your soul recognizes what you were meant for. And until you align your decisions with that purpose, there will always be a gap between where you are and where you should be. A decision closes that gap, not instantly, not magically, but powerfully. Because once you decide, your focus sharpens. You stop chasing everything and start committing to something. Your energy stops leaking into distractions and starts building something meaningful. Your days gain structure. Your actions gain intention. Your life gains direction. And direction is what transforms effort into progress. Without direction, even hard work is wasted. With direction, even small steps become powerful. A single decision can change the way you wake up in the morning, the way you spend your time, the way you see yourself. It gives you identity. You're no longer someone who wants to try. You become someone who is chosen. And there is strength in that, Because when your mind is made up, distractions lose their power, excuses sound weaker, and your actions begin to align with your purpose. Not perfectly, but consistently. Simpler. And consistency over time creates a life you once only imagined. But it all begins in a quiet moment. A moment where you stop negotiating with your fears. A moment where you stop waiting for permission. A moment where you realize that no one is coming to build your future for you. And with that realization comes responsibility. Heavy but honest, because your life is in your hands. Your choices are shaping your path. And every day you are either moving closer or staying where you are. That is the weight of a decision. Not loud, not dramatic, but deeply powerful. Doesn't always feel like a big moment. Sometimes it's silent. A private promise you make to yourself. A shift in your mindset. A choice to no longer accept the life you've been tolerating. And from that moment, everything begins to change. Your direction is no longer random. It becomes intentional. It becomes meaningful. Simpler. It becomes aligned with who you were created to be. Everyone loves to dream. Dreams are beautiful, comforting, exciting. They give you a glimpse of a life that feels bigger, better, more meaningful. You imagine success. You imagine peace. You imagine becoming someone you're proud of. But here is the truth most people avoid. Dreams are easy. Discipline is hard. And that's why so many people stay stuck. They fall in love with the dream, but run away from the discipline it demands. Because a dream by itself asks nothing from you. You can sit still and dream. You can delay and still dream. You can stay comfortable and still imagine a better life. But discipline interrupts your comfort. It asks you to wake up when your body wants rest, to work when your mind wants distraction, to stay focused when everything around you is pulling you away. And that is where the real test begins. Because your dream will never carry you forward, your discipline will. Simpler. There is a silent gap between where you are and where you want to be. And that gap is not filled with motivation. It is filled with daily, consistent discipline. The kind that no one sees. The kind that feels heavy, repetitive, sometimes even lonely. Because discipline is not exciting. It doesn't give you instant results. It doesn't reward you immediately. It asks you to trust the process even when you don't see progress. And that's where most people give up. They start strong, but stop when it becomes uncomfortable. They want the reward, but avoid the routine. They want the result, but resist the responsibility. But your dream doesn't disappear when you avoid discipline. It stays inside you quietly. And over time, it turns into something painful, regret, because deep down you know what you could have been, you know what you were capable of. And nothing hurts more than realizing you had the chance, but you didn't have the discipline. Now understand something deeper. Discipline is not punishment. It is a form of respect. Respect for your time, respect for your potential, respect for the life Allah has given you. Because everything you have, your abilities, your energy, your opportunities, they are not random. They are a trust, an amana. And discipline is how you honor that trust. It is how you show gratitude, not just with words, but with action. Anyone can say Alhamdulillah. But real gratitude is proven in how you live. Do you use your time wisely? Do you push yourself when it's hard? Do you stay committed when no one is watching? That is discipline, and that is where your dream begins to transform. Because when you become disciplined, you stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop saying, I'll start tomorrow. You stop waiting for the perfect mood. You start showing up no matter how you feel, and that consistency begins to shape you. Not just your results, but your identity. You become someone reliable, someone focused, someone who follows through. And that change is powerful because success is not built on occasional effort. It is built on repeated actions, small steps done daily, even when they feel insignificant, even when they feel slow. Because discipline understands something your emotions don't. Progress takes time, and time tests your sincerity. Will you keep going when it gets boring? Will you stay committed when no one is praising you? Will you remain focused when distractions are easier? This is where your dream is truly tested, not in what you say, but in what you do repeatedly. And here is where faith becomes your strength, because discipline becomes easier when your intention is higher than just success. When you begin to see your effort as something more, something meaningful, you're not just working for results. You're working with purpose. Simpler. You're using your abilities in a way that pleases Allah. You're striving to become better, not just for the dunya, but for your akhirah. And that changes everything, because now your discipline is not empty. It carries sincerity. It carries intention. It carries reward even in the struggle. Every early morning, every moment of resistance, every time you push yourself when it's hard, it is seen. It is counted. It matters. And when you believe that, you don't give up so easily. because you realize that discipline is not just building your future, it is shaping your character. And character is what stays with you long after the results come, long after the success arrives. Because anyone can achieve something once, but only a disciplined person can sustain it. And that is the real power. To not just reach your dream, but to become the kind of person who deserves it. And that transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens in quiet moments. Simpler. When you choose effort over excuses, focus over distraction, purpose over comfort, again and again. Until one day, what once felt difficult becomes natural. What once required effort becomes habit. And what once was a dream becomes your reality. But it never started with the dream. It started with discipline. Everyone has ideas. Everyone has plans. Everyone has moments where they feel inspired, motivated, ready to change their life. But look closely and you'll notice something. Most people never move. They think, they talk, they imagine, but they don't act. And that is the line that separates the crowd from the few who actually build something real. Because ideas are common, dreams are everywhere, intentions are easy to claim. But action is rare. Action requires you to step out of your comfort zone, to move before you feel ready, to begin even when the path is not clear. And that's where most people stop. Simpler. They wait for confidence. They wait for perfect timing. They wait until everything makes sense. But life doesn't reward those who wait endlessly. It responds to those who move, because clarity doesn't come before action. Clarity comes through action. You understand more by doing than you ever will by thinking. Every step you take teaches you something. Every mistake you make sharpens you. Every effort you give pushes you forward. But if you stay still, nothing changes. Your situation remains the same. Your potential stays unused. Your future stays distant. And slowly, without realizing, you become part of the crowd. A crowd full of people who could have, but never did. And that's a painful place to be. Because deep inside, you know you are meant for more. You feel it. That quiet frustration, that restlessness, that sense that your life is not aligning with your potential. It's not because you lack ability. It's because you haven't acted on it. Simpler. Action is what unlocks everything. Without action, talent is wasted. Without action, knowledge is powerless. Without action, even the strongest desire fades away. But when you act, even in small ways, something begins to shift. You gain momentum, and momentum is powerful. Because once you start moving, it becomes easier to keep going. The first step is always the hardest. It feels uncomfortable, uncertain, heavy. But after that, things begin to flow. Not perfectly, but progressively. And that's all you need. Progress, not perfection. Because waiting for perfection keeps you stuck. Taking action moves you forward. Even imperfect action creates results. Even small steps build confidence. Even slow progress brings you closer to where you want to be. And over time, those small actions compound into something significant. But here's what makes action even more meaningful. It's not just about success. It's about obedience, responsibility, purpose. Simpler. Because the life you've been given is not without meaning. Your time is not endless. Your abilities are not random. They are a trust from Allah. And action is how you respond to that trust. It's how you show that you value what you've been given. Because knowing what's right and doing nothing is a loss. But knowing and acting is growth. When you take action with sincere intention, your effort becomes more than just effort. It becomes something that carries reward, something that holds value beyond this world. And that changes the way you move. You're no longer acting only for results. You're acting because it's the right thing to do. Because you were created to strive, to build, to use what you've been given. And that mindset removes hesitation. Because now action is not optional. It becomes necessary. You stop asking, what if I fail? And you start asking, what happens if I never try? And that question hits deeper, simpler, because failure teaches, but regret stays. Failure is temporary, but inaction creates a permanent gap between you and the life you could have lived, and that gap grows over time. Every day you delay, it becomes harder to start. Every day you avoid action, your confidence weakens, because confidence is not built by thinking. It is built by doing. You become confident by taking steps, by facing challenges, by proving to yourself that you can move forward even when it's hard. And that only happens through action, not someday, not later, not when everything feels right, but now, in this moment, with what you have, because action doesn't require perfection. It requires decision and movement. And once you start, you separate yourself. You step out of the crowd of hesitation and into the path of growth. You become someone who doesn't just talk, but does. Someone who doesn't just dream, but builds. Someone who doesn't just wait, but moves with purpose. Simpler. And that difference is what changes everything. There is a quiet pattern that destroys more dreams than failure ever will. Excuses, not loud, not obvious, but persistent. They sound reasonable. They feel justified. They protect your comfort while slowly stealing your future. I'm not ready yet. I'll start when things get better. I just need more time. And the most dangerous part, you believe them, because excuses don't look like weakness. They look like logic. They convince you that waiting is wise, that delaying is necessary, that someday will come. But someday has a habit of never arriving. And while you're explaining why you can't move, time is moving without you. Your destiny is not something that suddenly appears. It is something you move toward, step by step, choice by choice. But every excuse becomes a pause, a delay, a moment where you choose comfort over growth. And those moments add up. Days become weeks. Weeks become months. Months quietly turn into years. And one day, you look back and realize you didn't run out of potential. You ran out of time, because excuses don't destroy your future instantly. They do it slowly. They keep you in the same place long enough that staying there begins to feel normal. You get used to not trying, used to postponing, used to telling yourself later. And that comfort becomes a trap, because the longer you stay still, the harder it becomes to move. Your confidence weakens, your belief fades, your energy lowers. Not because you're incapable, but because you've trained yourself not to act. Excuses create that habit, a habit of avoidance, a habit of escape, a habit of choosing what feels easy instead of what builds your future. But deep inside, you know the truth. There's a voice that doesn't agree with your excuses, a voice that reminds you you could be doing more, that you should be doing more, that you were created for more. And no matter how many distractions you surround yourself with, that voice doesn't disappear, because your soul recognizes the gap between your current life and your true potential. And excuses keep that gap open. They delay your growth. They delay your progress. They delay your destiny. Now understand this clearly. Your destiny is not delayed by difficulty. It is delayed by hesitation, because difficulty can be overcome. You can learn, you can improve, you can adapt. But hesitation keeps you stuck at the starting point. It stops you before you even begin. And that is where excuses live, right at the edge of action. They appear the moment you're about to step forward. They whisper, not now, not today, not you. And if you listen, you step back again and again until stepping back becomes your habit. But here is something deeper. Excuses are not just about laziness. They are often rooted in fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough. And instead of facing that fear, you hide behind reasons, because it feels safer to say, I can't, than to try and risk being wrong. But avoiding that risk comes with a greater cost. Because every excuse you make, you're not just avoiding failure. You're avoiding growth. You're avoiding progress. You're avoiding the life you're capable of building. And that loss is not small. It's personal. It's emotional. It's the quiet pain of knowing you're capable of more, but not choosing it. And over time, that pain turns into regret, a heavy, silent regret that no success can replace later. Because you don't regret what you tried. You regret what you avoided. Now bring this into a deeper perspective. Your time is not random. Your abilities are not accidental. They are a trust from Allah, and a mana placed in your hands. And with that trust comes responsibility, not just to exist, but to act, to use what you've been given, to strive, to grow. To grow. Excuses ignore that responsibility. They treat time as if it's unlimited, as if you can always start later. But you don't know how much time you have. None of us do. And that uncertainty should not create fear. It should create urgency, because every day is an opportunity, a chance to move closer or remain where you are. And when you choose excuses, you are choosing delay. Not just delay in results, but delay in becoming who you were meant to be. Because destiny is not just about outcomes. It's about transformation. Who you become through your effort, through your discipline, through your choices. And excuses interrupt that process. They keep you the same, comfortable but unfulfilled, busy but not progressing, alive but not truly living with purpose. And that is where the real loss is, not in failure, not in struggle, but in standing still while your potential waits. And your potential will wait. It will stay within you quietly, patiently, until you decide, until you stop explaining and start acting, until you replace excuses with effort. Because the moment you do that, something shifts. You don't become perfect. You don't suddenly have everything figured out. But you begin, and beginning is powerful. It breaks the pattern. It disrupts the habit. It creates momentum. And momentum carries you forward. Slowly at first, but steadily. And with every step, your excuses lose their power. Your confidence grows. Your clarity improves. Your direction becomes stronger. Because action weakens excuses, and consistency destroys them. But that shift only happens when you stop listening to the reasons and start honoring your responsibility. Not later, not when it's easier, not when you feel ready, but in the moment where you're most tempted to delay. That is where your future is decided. Simpler. That is where your destiny is either delayed or pursued. There is a lie that quietly holds people back. The belief that success requires something big, a massive opportunity, a perfect moment, a sudden breakthrough. So they wait. They wait for the right time. They wait for the right resources. They wait until they feel ready. And while they're waiting, nothing happens. Because the truth is far simpler and far more demanding. Big futures are not built in big moments. They are built in small, consistent steps. Steps that feel almost invisible at the beginning. Steps that don't impress anyone. Steps that don't get applause. Steps that sometimes feel like they don't even matter. But they do. Because every great result you admire, every strong person you respect, every life that looks successful from the outside was built quietly, one decision at a time, one habit at a time, one small step repeated again and again. But most people underestimate small steps. Simpler, because they don't see immediate results. They take action for a few days, maybe a few weeks. And when nothing dramatic happens, they stop. They think it's not working. They think they need something bigger. But what they don't realize is this. Small steps are not meant to impress you in the moment. They are meant to transform you over time. And transformation takes patience. Because growth is not loud. It's silent, gradual, almost unnoticeable, like a seed planted in the ground. You don't see anything at first. No visible change, no clear progress. But beneath the surface, something is happening. Roots are forming. Strength is developing. And with time, that small hidden process becomes something strong and visible. Your life works the same way. Every small effort you make, every moment you choose discipline, every time you push yourself just a little further, it's building something, even if you can't see it yet. But here is where people struggle. They lose patience. They compare their beginning to someone else's result. They expect fast change from slow processes. And when reality doesn't match their expectations, they quit, not because they failed, but because they didn't wait long enough to succeed. And that's the painful part, because success was not far away. It was being built quietly through their small efforts, but they walked away too early. Now understand this deeply. Consistency in small actions is more powerful than intensity in short bursts. Anyone can work hard for a day. Anyone can feel motivated for a week. But few people can stay consistent for months, for years, without immediate reward. And that is what separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. Because small steps require humility. You have to accept that progress will be slow. That recognition will be delayed. That results will take time. And that challenges your ego. It challenges your patience. Simpler. It challenges your belief. But it strengthens your character. Because every day you continue, even when it feels small, you are proving something to yourself, that you can stay committed, that you can be consistent, that you can move forward even without instant results. And that belief becomes powerful because confidence is not built from big wins. It is built from small promises kept to yourself. You said you would show up, and you did. You said you would try, and you did. You said you would continue, and you did. And over time, that builds trust within you, a quiet, unshakable trust. But there is something even deeper here. These small steps are not just building your future, they are a form of accountability to Allah. Because your time is a trust, your energy is a trust, your abilities are a trust. And you are not asked to produce massive results overnight. You are asked to strive, to make effort simpler, to use what you've been given in the best way you can, even if it feels small, even if it feels insignificant, because no sincere effort is ever wasted. Every step, no matter how small, is seen. Every moment of discipline is recorded. Every act of consistency carries value. And when you understand that you stop chasing only big outcomes, you start respecting small actions, because you realize that small actions, done sincerely, carry weight beyond what you can see. They shape your character. They strengthen your discipline. They purify your intention. And that matters, because your future is not just about where you arrive. It's about who you become along the way. And small steps shape that person. They teach you patience. They teach you focus. They teach you resilience. Because staying consistent when progress is slow is not easy. It tests your faith. It tests your discipline. It tests your sincerity. Simpler. Will you continue even when it feels unnoticed? Will you keep going even when it feels small? That is where real growth happens. Not in big dramatic moments, but in quiet, repeated effort. And slowly, almost without realizing, those small steps begin to add up. What once felt difficult becomes routine. What once felt slow becomes steady progress. What once felt invisible becomes visible. And one day you look back and you realize something powerful, that everything you have built came from those small, consistent actions you once thought didn't matter. The early mornings, the extra effort, the discipline when it was hard. It all added up, not instantly, not magically, but inevitably, because small steps repeated long enough create big futures. Motivation feels powerful. It comes like a surge of energy, a moment where everything feels possible. You feel inspired, focused, ready to change your life. In that moment, you promise yourself things simpler. I'll wake up early. I'll stay disciplined. I'll never go back to my old habits. And for a short time, you mean it. But then something happens. The energy fades. The excitement disappears. The emotions settle. And suddenly, the same tasks feel heavier. What once felt easy now feels difficult. And this is where most people stop, because they built their effort on motivation. And motivation is unstable. It depends on how you feel. It rises and falls. It shows up when things are easy and disappears when things get hard. But your future cannot depend on something so temporary. Your future requires something stronger, consistency. Because consistency doesn't ask how you feel. It doesn't wait for the perfect mood. It doesn't depend on inspiration. It simply asks, will you show up again? Even when you're tired, even when you're distracted, even when you don't feel like it. That is where real progress begins. Because the truth is simpler. You will not always feel motivated, but you always have the ability to be consistent. And that choice, repeated daily, is what changes everything. Consistency turns actions into habits, and habits shape your life. Not what you do once, but what you do repeatedly. Anyone can have a productive day. Anyone can feel motivated for a week. But your life is not built in a day or a week. It is built in what you do over months, over years. And that requires consistency. The kind that feels ordinary. The kind that feels repetitive. The kind that doesn't look exciting, but quietly builds something powerful. Because consistency compounds. A small effort today, plus another tomorrow, plus another the next day, begins to add up. Not dramatically at first, but steadily. And steady progress is what creates real change. But here's the challenge. Consistency is not emotional. It doesn't give you instant satisfaction. It doesn't always feel rewarding. Sometimes it feels boring. Sometimes it feels like nothing is happening. And that is where most people lose focus. They chase motivation again. They look for that feeling, that excitement, that spark. But they forget that progress doesn't come from feelings. It comes from actions, repeated actions, and those actions require discipline. Doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. That is consistency, and that is what separates those who succeed from those who start and stop. Because starting is easy, continuing is hard. Continuing when it's inconvenient, continuing when it's uncomfortable, continuing when no one is watching. That is where your character is built. That is where your future is shaped. Because consistency is not just about results, it's about identity. Every time you show up, you are becoming someone reliable, someone disciplined, someone who follows through. And that identity becomes stronger over time. You stop relying on emotions and start trusting your habits. You stop asking, do I feel like it? And start saying, this is what I do. And that shift is powerful. Because once something becomes part of who you are, it no longer feels like effort. It becomes natural. But there is something deeper here. Consistency is also a form of sincerity. Because when you continue doing something good, even when it's hard, even when it's unnoticed, it shows the truth of your intention. You're not doing it for praise. You're not doing it for attention. You're doing it because it matters. And that carries weight. Because in Islam, even small deeds, when done consistently, are beloved. Not the occasional big effort, but the regular, sincere action. And that gives your consistency a deeper meaning. Every step you take, every effort you repeat, every time you show up, it is seen, it is valued, it is recorded, even when no one else notices. And that changes how you approach your work. You don't stop just because you're not motivated. You continue because you understand your responsibility, to use your time wisely, to honor what you've been given, to strive in a way that reflects gratitude. And that requires consistency, not perfection. You will have days where you feel strong, and days where you feel weak. Days where everything flows, and days where everything feels heavy. But consistency is not about being perfect. It's about not stopping. Even if the effort is small, even if the progress is slow, you continue, because stopping breaks momentum, and momentum is powerful. Once you build it, it carries you forward. But once you lose it, starting again becomes harder. That's why consistency matters more than motivation. Because motivation might start the journey, but only consistency keeps you on the path, day after day. Step after step, simpler, until what once felt difficult becomes part of your life, until what once required effort becomes habit. Simpler. Until what once was a goal becomes your reality. Ideas are everywhere. In your mind, in your conversations, in your quiet moments when you imagine a better life. You think about change. You picture success. You see a version of yourself that is stronger, focused, disciplined. And for a moment, it feels real. But then life continues and nothing changes, because ideas, no matter how powerful they feel, remain powerless until responsibility enters. Responsibility is what gives weight to your thoughts. It transforms "I want to" into "I must." It shifts you from wishing to doing. And that shift is everything. Because as long as something is just an idea, you can delay it without consequence. You can think about it tomorrow. You can postpone it without pressure. You can live comfortably without acting on it. But the moment you take responsibility, everything changes. Now it's no longer optional. Now it's something you are accountable for. Simpler, and accountability creates action. Most people avoid responsibility, not because they don't care, but because responsibility is heavy. It demands consistency. It demands discipline. It demands that you show up even when you don't feel like it. And that weight scares people, so they stay in the world of ideas, because ideas feel safe. They don't expose you to failure. They don't challenge your comfort. They don't force you to grow. But they also don't change your life. And deep inside, you know that. You feel the gap between what you think about and what you actually do. You feel the frustration of knowing you could be more, but not stepping into it. And that frustration grows over time, because ideas are meant to be acted on. They are not placed in your heart without reason. That vision you carry, that desire to improve, that feeling that you are capable of something greater, it's not random. It's a sign of potential. But potential without responsibility stays unused. It stays hidden. And eventually it fades, not because it wasn't real, but because it was never developed. Responsibility is what protects your potential from fading. It is what forces you to take your life seriously, to stop waiting, to stop making excuses, to stop treating your future like something distant, because your future is being shaped right now by your choices, by your actions, by your willingness to take responsibility. Now understand something deeper. Responsibility is not just about achieving success. It is about honoring a trust. Your life, your time, your abilities, they are not random gifts. They are an amana from Allah. And with that amana comes accountability, not just in this world, but in the hereafter. You are not asked what you dreamed about. You are asked what you did, how you used your time, how you used your energy, how you used what you were given. And that question is serious, because it removes all excuses. It reminds you that your life has meaning, that your actions matter, that your choices carry weight beyond what you can see. And when you truly understand that, responsibility no longer feels like a burden. It feels like purpose, because now your effort is not empty. Your discipline is not meaningless. Your actions are connected to something greater. You're not just working for results, you're working with intention. And intention transforms everything. It turns ordinary effort into something valuable. It turns daily work into something meaningful. It turns responsibility into a form of worship. And that changes how you live. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop relying on feelings. You start showing up because you know you are accountable, because you understand that your life is your responsibility. No one else will build it for you. No one else will carry your potential. No one else will answer for your choices. And that realization is heavy, but it is also empowering. Because the moment you accept responsibility, you take control. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop pointing at others. You stop waiting for things to change. You become the one who creates change, and that is powerful, because once you take ownership, your actions begin to align. You become more focused, more disciplined, more intentional, not perfectly, but consistently. And consistency begins to build something real. Your ideas start turning into actions. Your actions start creating results. Your results start shaping your life, slowly, but surely. And that process transforms you. You become someone reliable. Someone who follows through, someone who doesn't just talk, but acts. And that identity is what turns ideas into reality, because reality is not built on thoughts. It is built on repeated, responsible action, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one is watching. That is where your future is created. Simpler. In the moments where you choose responsibility over comfort, in the moments where you act instead of delay, in the moments where you take ownership instead of making excuses, and those moments may seem small, but they carry power, because each one moves you forward. Each one brings your ideas closer to reality. Each one shapes the life you are building, until one day, what once existed only in your mind exists in your life. Not because it was easy, not because it happened quickly, but because you took responsibility and refused to let your ideas remain just ideas. Here's a powerful, structured, motivational piece in that classic, timeless style you're aiming for. Simpler, # direct, hit *** hook, intro separate, *** there comes a day. When your dreams stop being something you talk about and start becoming something you're responsible for, most people never reach that day, not because they lack talent, but because they never decide. Today we talk about that moment, the day your future stops being an idea. ********* number 7, notes number 1. Decision creates direction. 2. Dreams require discipline. 3. Action separates you from the crowd. 4. Excuses delay destiny. 5. Small steps build big futures. 6. Consistency beats motivation. 7. Responsibility turns ideas into reality. ## clapperboard ***, main script ***. There is a difference between interest and commitment. When something is just an idea, you're interested. You talk about it, you imagine it, you delay it. But the day your future stops being an idea is the day you become committed. And commitment changes everything. You stop asking, what if? And you start saying, this must happen. Simpler. Because ideas are comfortable. They don't demand anything from you, but a real future. That requires discipline. It requires you to wake up when you don't feel like it, to work when nobody is watching, to keep going when results are slow. You see, the gap between where you are and where you want to be is filled with action. Not wishes, not plans, action. ***, most people delay their future with excuses. I'll start tomorrow. I'm waiting for the right time. I need more confidence. But the truth is, there is no perfect moment. The perfect moment is the one you decide to act. Because every day you wait, your future stays an idea. And every day you act, your future starts becoming real. Now understand this. Big success doesn't come from big moves. It comes from small, repeated actions. A little progress each day compounds into something powerful. And here's where most people fail. They rely on motivation. But motivation comes and goes. What builds a future is consistency. Doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. That's when your life starts to change. And finally, the moment your future stops being an idea is the moment you take full responsibility. No blaming, no waiting, no depending, just ownership. Because when you take responsibility, you take control. And when you take control, you start building something real. ## end arrow ***, closing message ***, your future is not waiting for the perfect plan. It's waiting for your decision. So don't let it remain an idea. Turn it into action. Turn it into discipline. Turn it into reality. Because one day, or day one you choose, ***,